Oh. to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. It's that simple. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Open, 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 open.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
We have made it to Yom HaTzedek. My name is Andrew Kaplan-Mandel. I am wearing two hats, or two kippot, today. I am the organizer of this international celebration, and I am so honored to be doing so as the rabbinical intern here at Central Synagogue that is generously hosting this first ever celebration. I am joined by my incredible colleagues, Rabbi Hilly Haber, Rabbi Nicole Auerbach, Rabbi Angela Buchdahl, Senior Cantor Shayna Delo of Congregation Rodef Shalom, our dear partner, and cantorial intern Beth Reinstein. If you're already feeling that holiday spirit, it's because we have the most incredible musicians with us, David Strickland and Yvonne Barenboim. If you're feeling welcomed, it's because of Rachel Kaplan. Thanks so much to our AE team. If you're feeling safe and secure, it's because of our security team. I want to thank them. If you're feeling a sense of majesty, it's because of our facilities team that makes this place shine and has hung these beautiful banners around the room. I want to thank my colleague Rachel Kalter from our marketing team who helped put together both those banners and the beautiful Haggadah that you have in front of you. We also have wonderful artists in the room whose exhibits are inside the HUC Museum, still open until the middle of June, and we'll see at least one during our ceremony. So we're surrounded with love and company. We've also been counting the days. From Passover to Shavuot, we've been counting the Omer. But today, we seek to ensure that our days count. This is a day of accountability, it's a day of reflection, it's a day of rededication, and we do so both here in this room, and we do so online with legions of folks from around the world who are joining us, and I want to give a special acknowledgement to Dina Robinson from Baltimore and Darren Lim Yankowitz from Honolulu, who are the co-hosts of our Zedek celebration online, and we'll be hearing from them a little bit later. Before we begin our program formally, I wish to just take a collective breath and hold it in acknowledgement of all of the brokenness and pain that exists in our city at this moment, in our country at this moment, and throughout the world. Let's take an inhale and hold. And exhale. We continue on page 6 of our Haggadah.
Our Torah begins with a spark of light. It separates light from darkness. We are in a room tonight filled with sparks of light, you, people who work to bring light to the dark spots of our world. And even more, we are in a room filled with people who work to spark light in others, to be a shamash, a sparker of light is a great blessing to our people. So we are very honored that we have so many shamashim in the room and online tonight. And to light our candles, we have some special shamashim, special sparkers of light. So it is our honor that Judy Brown, who came, I think, all the way from Oregon, is that true? To represent the many artists who inspired us with their Zedek box creations. And we have Jody Sadowski from West Hartford to represent the volunteers, the many people who are spreading this ritual across the country and across the world. So it is our honor to have you light our candles tonight. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov. Blessed are you, Eternal One, Sovereign of the universe, who calls us to holiness through mitzvot, commanding us to kindle these festival lights.
Just as we sanctify the world through our acts of Zedek, we sanctify this time and space of this new holiday, Yom HaTzedek, with words of Kiddush that can be found on the next page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen.
Every Jewish holiday, we begin by offering words of thanksgiving and gratitude and blessing, these words of Shehechianu, thanking God for the fact that we have come to this moment of this particular celebration. And we're so lucky that each year we get to celebrate holidays in their appropriate season. But maybe only once in a lifetime, if we're lucky, we can say Shehechianu for a brand new holiday, one that has never existed before. And today we will say for all of you in this room, you are here for the very first Yom HaTzedek in Jewish history. That is certainly worthy of a Shehechianu. And I want to say that if that weren't alone, we're in the presence of the originator of this holiday, who didn't make it from nothing. He took the roots of deep roots of Zedek that is a part of our tradition. He connected this day with an actual holiday, Pesach Sheni. I'm going to guess this is the first time most of you have celebrated that holiday as well. And took those deep roots and grew this beautiful new nourishing tree. And in addition to that, we are in the presence of two of our greatest Zedek heroes in our Jewish community, with Sheila Katz and Ruth Messenger, who are gracing us with their presence on this beautiful holiday, this new holiday as well. So for this and so many other reasons that our hearts are filled with gratitude, I invite us to all stand together and join in this Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Yom HaTzedek is a new tradition, but it is rooted in an ancient story. We begin with the exodus from Egypt, when our people tasted the freedom that would allow them to change the world around them. We continue with our song of freedom, Mi Chamocha.
After a year of wandering in the wilderness together, the Israelites remembered their promise to tell the Passover story and to make a sacrifice. But some could not take part in the ritual. Here's what our Torah tells us.
Vayehi anashim asher hayu tmeim lenefesh adam velo yachlu la'asot hapesach bayom hahu vayikrevu lifnei Moshe velifnei Aharon bayom hahu.
But there were some householders who were impure by reason of a corpse and could not offer the Passover sacrifice on that day, appearing that same day before Moses and Aaron.
Vayomeru ha'anashim ha'hema elav anachnu temeim lenefesh adam lama nigara leviliti hakriv et korban Adonai b'moado b'toch b'nei Yisrael.
Those householders said to them, impure though we are by reason of a corpse, why must we be debarred from presenting Adonai's offering at its set time with the rest of the Israelites?
Vayomer alehem Moshe imdu ve'eshme'a ma yitzaveh Adonai lachem.
Moses said to them, stand by and let me hear what instructions Adonai gives about you.
It's a cliffhanger, right? So in response to the people's plea, God institutes Pesach Sheni, a do-over, for those unable to fulfill their obligations with the rest of the community. And so standing here on Pesach Sheni, we take two lessons from this story to fuel our work. The first is the power of advocacy. These people saw what was missing, and they spoke truth to power to create greater justice and access in the world. And the second is that this is a day of second chances. The best time to take action for justice may have been yesterday or a month ago or a year ago or 10 years ago. But the second best time is right now. Yom HaTzedek embraces this idea of second chances, offering us all a chance to recommit ourselves to what God calls us to do.
And just as our ancestors did, we continue to raise our voices to effect change. Over this last year, our communities advocated for and served the most vulnerable in our cities, those who have come seeking refuge and new possibilities for themselves and their families, people coming home from jail and prison, those struggling with housing and food insecurity, and communities reeling from climate change. Led by our incredible Central Synagogue and Rodef Shalom volunteers and lay leaders, we couple our prayers for a world transformed with the work of our hands and hearts. I invite our lay leaders up now to lead us in a reading on page 10.
We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end war, for we know that you have made the world in a way that people must find their own paths to peace within themselves and with neighbors.
We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end starvation, for you have already given us the resources with which to feed the entire world, if we would only use them wisely.
We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to root out prejudice, for you have already given us eyes with which to see the good in all people, if we would only use them rightly.
We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end despair, for you have already given us the power to clear away slums and to give hope if we would only use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end disease, for you have already given us great minds with which to search out cures and healing, if we would only use them constructively.
Therefore, we pray to you instead, O God, for strength, determination, and willpower, to do instead of just pray, to become instead of merely to wish.
Open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love.
I now invite Ruth Messenger to our bima.
Thank you. Hag Sameach.
Make sure that you
Okay, thank you. So first of all, with all of you, I want to give my ongoing thanks to Rabbi Angela and to the entire staff of Central and to this community, which in this unbelievably gorgeous and somewhat ancient sanctuary keeps up with all of the contemporary issues and moves its congregation regularly to do justice. And a special congratulations today to Andrew Mandel. So, you know, this is extraordinary. We're all at meetings of various kinds, your work meetings, your synagogue meetings, other organizations, where somebody says, you know, I have a new idea. And most of us groan because we know that we're not getting enough done with the ideas we already have. And we can't imagine a new idea coming along. And we can't imagine that if a new idea comes along, we're all going to be pulled in 37 new directions, and it's not going to work. So that was probably a little bit of my response to Andrew the first time he talked about this. But I shut up quickly. First of all, because he was clear, visionary, and organized. And second of all, because his idea, as you all know, was entirely immersed in justice, which is critical to me. Now, he's not perfect. I want to be clear about that. He asked me if I would be here tonight. He asked me if I would introduce my friend Sheila. And then when he sent me instructions, he said, about 300 words. So I don't know what 300 words is, Andrew, so I'll probably throw your program a little out of whack. But I want to say another word about this idea of justice. You all know the command, Zedek, Zedek Tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. I want to make two comments about that are important to me. One is this particular English translation, but the idea of the word pursue. Because we are all, even the best of us, too focused on, did we get there, wherever the there is? Did we accomplish that? Is it done? And the idea here is that the pursuit of justice is itself the reward. That what you do to keep trying to make change in the world has to be satisfying, has to give each of us that sense of agency, because of the fact of the matter is we're not likely on many counts to get there, wherever there is, but we are likely to have made an extraordinary difference for people. One other comment, some of the rabbis asked, why does it say tzedek, tzedek twice? Why doesn't it just say pursue justice? And one of the rabbis' explanations is, it's to remind you that you are not only pursuing a just end, but you must pursue it justly. So both the means and the end must reflect justice. And I think that has a lot to do with what Andrew is asking us all to do, which you'll hear more about tonight. But a Zedek box is not, with all due respect to everybody, it is not a New Year's resolution, because a New Year's resolution occupies about 37 seconds in our year. Oh, I think next year I will. And then either I did or I didn't. But that's not what this is about. This is about the thoughtful and just pursuit of some goals that we realize would bring the world to a greater degree of justice. And so before I go on to talk about Sheila, I would just say to each of you, as the last poem, the Jack Reamer poem indicated, we know what the problems are. I'm mostly associated in some of your minds with global injustice, but I'm working now on several fronts, again, as I did previously in my lifetime, with injustice in New York City. And I'm going to spare you any list of where the problems are, because the issue is not to retreat to the convenience of being overwhelmed. Sit down on your mountaintop, sit in your own seat, breathe deeply, as Angela said before, and think about what are the issue or issues, not too many, that I most care about, that I most want to find the people who are working on those issues so I don't do it alone. And recognize that each step you take is something that you must do justly, because it will move us all toward a more just and equitable world. Sheila Katz. So if you've been around a while, and even if you haven't been around a while, you probably knew someplace in the pantheon of organizations with alphabetical names was the National Council of Jewish Women. And in fact, I just verified with Sheila, it's been around, it's even older than I am. It's been around 130 years. And it's been a distinguished organization. But in its panoply of histories, it came at a time, as we all can sort of imagine, where people weren't, well, I shouldn't say people, I would say where men weren't quite sure what to do with women. So they parked them in some organization or some other organizations or some other divisions and kind of said, I don't know, do what you want. And during those 130 years, NCJW did extraordinary work and moved issues of social change. But then it has had a couple of opportunities in its last decade or two to rethink, what does the world look like now? Why are women still too often in too many places shunted aside? Why are the issues that matter the most to women in this world not given the attention that they deserve? And what the organization needed was somebody who could come in with a huge sense of where the people of her generation are. Not everybody knows who their generation is or where their generation is, but Sheila, when I first met her, was doing amazing work for Hillel, finding out what was on the minds of young people, but not only finding out what was on their minds, suggesting that they think more deeply, suggesting, as she did, that they ask big questions and figure out how they could make a change in the world. And then she came to NCJW at a moment at which what was needed was somebody who could recognize and respect that history, but build on it. Think about how that organization, 130-year-old organization, could have new meaning for our time. And in every possible way, Sheila Katz is present, passionate, and visible. She knows where and when to stand. She knows how to address a crowd, whether the demonstrators today in Israel or the people in the halls of our Congress, who need a lot of reminding. She knows how to identify and work on issues from an interfaith perspective, which is critical for all of us. We are not going to win these justice issues alone. We have to make common cause with all kinds of other people fighting for justice, some of whom we don't agree with on every issue, just like most of us don't agree with everybody we know on every issue. but we need to be there and visible. And Sheila, heading a national Jewish organization, will put us there on every issue. But what we salute her for particularly, what I salute her for particularly tonight, is her leap ahead, recognizing that reproductive rights were not protected, were not secure, and were under attack. So that she was ready when the Supreme Court moved to take away rights from more than half of the population of the United States. And Sheila was there, has spoken out, has not left all of the other issues of poverty, hunger, fighting for democracy in Israel aside, but has continued in these last really difficult months to say the first issue has to be respecting women, respecting our bodies, and respecting our rights. Sheila Katz is our century's example of a leader for justice, and it's my privilege to introduce her.
Wow, Ruth, you're coming on the road with me. Thank you. Let me just start by saying how meaningful it is to be here, to be given this honor with so many friends, my rabbis and cantors, and lots of people I know here, and particularly Ruth, for you to open up this way. I actually wrote down, you can look at it, before she spoke, "We cannot retreat to the convenience of being overwhelmed," which is a quote I heard from Ruth when I worked for Hillel at University of North Carolina, and it changed my life. I remember thinking about it and really sitting with that and saying, what does that mean, right? I've learned from Ruth that despair is not a strategy. And it can feel really, really hard to move when things are really, really difficult. And so, I stand with you, Ruth, and feel truly honored that you're here. Before I dive into it, let me just say, people saw this from me on Twitter today. It's Star Wars Day today. So spoiler if you've never seen the movies. I watched them for the first time this year. I was surprised at how feminist they were. But I do want to share my one-line observation on this May the 4th be with you day is that if Anakin knew that Padma had access to comprehensive reproductive care and would survive childbirth, he would have never turned to the dark side, and the whole galaxy would be saved. So it wouldn't have made for an interesting movie or sequel, but once again, if we can just center women, we can save so many lives. With that, I want to jump into NCJW. I'm going to share a little bit about my story, a little bit about our work, and I think the most important lesson I had this year in hope and celebration, because I think we need a little of that. The reason I'm so proud to work at National Council of Jewish Women is because our work every day is surrounding kavod habriot, the dignity of every human being. And this was a key tenet important to me and that I learned from my family really early in my life. A lot of you have heard me say this. When I was young, I learned firsthand that our society isn't always built around dignity or care for women, children, and families. My mother's multiple sclerosis had come out of remission when I was still in high school, leading her to be in a wheelchair and significant medical debt. A lot of roadblocks were suddenly present in my family's life. My mom had to stop working because of the MS. My dad had to stop working to take care of my mom. We didn't have the resources to navigate this change, and it felt like there weren't policies in place to help our family in a time of need. And overnight, we learned that almost nothing in my mom's life was accessible. Not her favorite coffee shop, not our home, not even our synagogue, which is why I was very proud to walk down the ramp on the way in here today. And when it feels like every part of society is built for anybody but you, it's really hard to engage. And day after day, my mom showed me that you don't need to stand on two legs to stand up for yourself. From doctor's office to grocery stores, she spoke out about her MS and the responsibility of leaders to make our spaces accessible for everyone. And the leaders my mom spoke to didn't always make the changes that they should have, right? They didn't. But she spoke out for the changes she deserved, and it inspired me to first engage in disability inclusion
and then engage in LGBTQ inclusion, which then led to gender justice, which eventually led me to National Council of Jewish Women. And I'm really honored to get to fight for women, children, and families every single day. And it's why I care so much about our communities being designed to make life easier, to not intentionally put stumbling blocks out before us. And I think it's fair to say that we all have stories like mine, a time when someone we love experienced difficulty that policy only amplified instead of helped. Whether they're personal to you or in your wider community, in your local school, in your synagogue, these are the people that we center when we do our work. And this is a room full of people who already care to fix the inequities in our midst. And we know there's so much for us to work on because our country is broken, people are suffering, and we must do better. And so since I traveled on Amtrak here from Washington, D.C., where I help people do better, as Ruth reminds, that we have to keep reminding our elected officials, I really want to be clear about the state of our country and why we're in the state that we're in. It is a policy decision that millions of children are living in poverty. It is a policy decision that millions of families are living paycheck to paycheck. It is a policy decision that millions of people could be forced to be pregnant and could be forced to give birth. It is a policy decision that people don't have access to clean, drinkable water. It is a policy decision that 25% of women return to work within only 10 days of giving birth because we don't require paid family leave. It is a policy decision that 50% of families in this country don't have access to childcare. And it is a policy decision that gun violence is now the leading cause of death for children in this country. Things are really grim right now, and so much is at stake, but it doesn't have to be this way. A moral America is worth fighting for. And all of you here today who continuously choose to show up, to engage, and to fight for what's right will set our communities, our states, and our country on the path that it must go on. We can't allow our rights to diminish any further, and we can't pretend like our rights in this state is normal. We need to continue to take threats from politicians here and in Israel like they are real, and we need to organize every single day. But I told you I was going to give you some hope. I know I just didn't. But I do have hope. I wouldn't do this work if I didn't have hope. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you how hard it is to find joy, especially when you're deep in this work and see the suffering. I feel that at times. There's rampant anti-Semitism, racism, transphobia, violence, and hate right out in the public. It's not even in hiding. But we have to find joy because it gives us the hope we need to carry on, and it allows us to move forward. And it also means we have to intentionally plan for it. So let me give you a Jewish learning and a learning from my work in the coalition space in Washington, D.C. So I learned this from Rabbi Ari Lucas in New Jersey about Miriam. For those of you who are still in Passover minds, wasn't that long ago, and the importance of planning for joy, in particular thinking about the Exodus from Egypt. So just picture this with me for a minute. You are all now Miriam. You find out it is time to leave Egypt, and you have to go in a hurry. No time for the bread to rise, right? What do you grab? Your kids, I would hope. Maybe something sentimental. I certainly hope, yeah? A few valuables, hopefully some comfortable shoes, one or two other things at most, right? Did you say a tambourine or a timbrel? Nope. That's not what I would have thought either, but Miriam did. In fact, according to the Midrash, or legend, she brought more than one of these percussion instruments with her for the long journey ahead through the desert. And I find it surprising. And I think what we can learn from this is that Miriam had so much faith in the future that she planned to have joy and to have a celebration. And if she hadn't brought this collection of instruments, she might not have been able to lead the Israelites in joyous song during their harrowing escape from the Egyptians. And without that joyous celebration, they may never have been able to move forward at all. They needed to mark their new space, and they needed to celebrate the collective motion forward together, I think Miriam's so underrated in our story. She had the emotional intelligence, compassion, and foresight necessary to help an entire nation move into their new stage. And I saw this lesson in action this past year when I was invited to this massive party right after now Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's nomination to the Supreme Court. Sister SCOTUS, an organization dedicated to increasing the presence of Black women in our courts, alongside National Women's Law Center and a few others, did not wait to throw the celebration until Justice Jackson was confirmed, but in fact celebrated the accomplishment of her nomination. It was an historic day, and they chose to mark it with a beautiful party for everyone who worked toward the moment. They didn't know at this time whether she would be confirmed or not, but they wanted to celebrate how far they had come and mark the occasion, right? We didn't know if she was gonna end up in the role that she's in. So too often, we're so focused on crossing into the promised land that we don't pause to honor our progress. We don't celebrate our incremental accomplishments. We don't really have enough faith that the future will be brighter, and we don't plan to bring our timbrels. But we can learn from Miriam, and we can learn from Sister SCOTUS to get your timbrels out and celebrate the change each and every time it happens. This is how we're going to sustain ourselves to build a more just world. And this is the lesson I brought back from my staff, because we usually feel defeated in certain moments. We didn't win. We didn't get to the end goal. People still don't have access to reproductive rights. People still don't have equal pay, the long list of things I just shared. But there are moments each and every month, each and every day, each and every year that we can hold on to as a sign of success heading us in the right direction, going down the path towards justice. So if I reflect on the things I'm most proud of from this past year for National Council of Jewish Women, I'll share 3 and then I'm gonna wrap up. After the fall of Roe, which is just devastating, as Ruth shared, we were already in the planning process of that moment and what might happen. And we launched the Jewish Fund for Abortion Access as soon as the leaked Roe opinion hit last May, literally almost a year ago, in about a week or two. And we raised $1 million, mostly from small donations from people around the country, that has helped us help 10,000 people access immediate abortion care, particularly traveling over state line, getting the care they need, staying in hotels, paying their travel, 10,000 individuals that collectively people helped. And I'm both proud of it and I'm devastated that we have to do it, but I'm proud that we helped. 2 is that we mobilized the Jewish community all year long in this issue, from the Jewish Rally for Abortion Justice, which brought 4,000 people to Washington, D.C., to Repro Shabbat a few months ago, where more than 1,500 communities across the country participated, including here. And then we worked on critical legislation. When you know you can't pass reproductive rights legislation and the cards are stacked against you, you try to make other things work, right? This was the moment we passed the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, something that kept getting tabled for 13, 14, 15 years, which gives basic accommodations to pregnant people in the workplace. We passed the Pump Act to make sure people have accommodations for breastfeeding in the workplace. And of course, we helped write and pass the Violence Against Women's Act this year, which was really important after being tabled for several years. I'm really proud of those things, and we can give those a round of applause. So I'll share the other thing that gives me hope, and then I promise I'm done. I think back to the civil rights movement and a really grim time. Mamie Till had just lost her son, who was brutally, brutally murdered. And in a last-minute decision, she opens the casket for Emmett Till. And because she made that decision to open the casket, that picture showed up in newspapers all around the country. And a woman in Montgomery saw the picture and for the first time decided to sign up for an organizing training, had never done it before, could have turned inward, could have hid, and literally 100 days later, Rosa Parks changed the course of history. And I think about this because I used to teach 4th grade in Brooklyn. And when we taught Rosa Parks, we taught the fake story, right? She was tired at the end of the long day. I'm sure she was tired and I'm sure it was a long day, but that's not what happened. She was a trained organizer who showed up to a local church and got the training she needed. She was the fourth or fifth woman to do the same thing. She was the first one to have it picked up by the media. There was someone before her who was too young, someone before her who was too pregnant, someone before her who was considered too black. She was the perfect combination of what the media needed to see somebody at the end of the long day, and she changed the course of history. And when she went to go sign up for that activist training, she didn't set out to change the world. She set out to do something, to feel she was going to make an impact. And that's what gives me the most hope, because it's not usually the organizations that make the biggest change in this country. It's an individual who happens to be in the right place at the right time because they chose to be in the right place at the right time. And so I have a lot of faith that if people here continue to not lean into despair as a strategy and continue to not get overwhelmed, as Ruth tells us, and to show up and do something, that the ripple effects for change that's needed in this country could happen from somebody right here. And so I really just want to thank you for the holy and important work that you're doing in your local communities every day. And as Toy Darracott shares, joy is an act of resistance, and we need more joy and less oi, everyone. And so may we all lift up those who are marginalized at the center of our stories. May we all plan to bring our timbrels on the journey, and may we all find joy in the progress of our work. And may we all continue to build a world for women, children, and families to thrive. Amen.
Our entire Zedek Box community, in acknowledgement of all the incredible work of the National Council of Jewish Women, I want to present you with this one-of-a-kind marble Zedek box symbolizing your steadfast commitment to equity and justice.
Thank you so much. That's so nice.
We'll now hear from our hosts of our Zedek Circle Online, Darren Lim Yankowitz in Honolulu and Dina Robinson in Baltimore.
First thing I just want to say is thank you, Sheila, for the work that you lead and for modeling for us what honest and just really meaningful accounting of a year can look like. For the past year, we've had Zedek Circle gatherings online, and we've been trying to catalog our own actions and our own reflections. So we've been anticipating this moment today for quite a while.
Thank you, Darren. For those of us who have opened our boxes before, we know that there are two likely impulses. You may be feeling some satisfaction that you've done more than you thought you would, or you might feel some embarrassment, regret, or shame for not having done as much as you intended to. It'll be important to balance pride and humility during this process to help us fuel future action. And we offer Psalm 146 as a way to remind us that we are not divine and that we can only aspire to greater consistency and depth in the work that we do. So I invite you to join me in reading Psalm 146, which you can find in your Haggadah on page 14. Happy are those who have the God of Jacob for help, whose hope is in the Eternal One, maker of heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, who keeps faith forever, who secures justice for those who are wronged, who gives food to the hungry.
Adonai, our God, sets prisoners free. The Eternal One restores sight to the blind. The Eternal One makes those who are bent stand straight. The Eternal One loves the righteous. The Eternal One watches over the stranger. The Eternal One gives courage to the orphan and the widow, but makes the path of the wicked tortuous.
On the top of page 15, please read in Hebrew with me. Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah. So now let's prepare to let all of the people and all of the feelings and all of the learnings and all of the impact of this past year in with a song that Rabbi Bukdal co-wrote. In the middle of the song, please join me for a responsive reading. We are on page 15 and 16.
פיתחו בחסד, פיתחו באהבה, פיתחו בצדק, נבובם, נבובם. Before we keep doing that, I'm going to actually change the key. פיתחו בחסד, פיתחו באהבה, פיתחו בצדק, נבובם, נבובם. Join with me. פיתחו בחסד, פיתחו באהבה, פיתחו בצדק, נבובם, נבובם. פיתחו בחסד,
We open these Zedek boxes.
We open our lips to prayer and words of kindness. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach.
We open these Zedek boxes.
We open our hearts to wisdom and love. Petach Libi.
We open these Zedek boxes.
Let us open the gates of righteousness.
Let us open these Zedek boxes. פיתחו בחסד, פיתחו באהבה, פיתחו בצדק, נבובם, נבובם. פיתחו, פיתחו בחסד, פיתחו באהבה, פיתחו בצדק, נבובם, נבובם. Let it in, let it in.
We now take some quiet time to open our boxes and or mentally review our year of giving, of volunteering, of learning, of advocating in our families, in our institutions, in our communities, and in our worlds. There are 4 questions for Pesach Sheni you'll find on page 18.
We've just been enjoying reading through some of the entries in our communal Zedek box. We've had members of our community contributing to it every week, and it is such a joy to see how people's hearts are filled with the work that they're doing. This day is a day of reflection and celebration that is both personal and communal. So if you would like to continue in solitary reflection, you can of course do so. And if you would like to turn to page 24, there's a QR code that will give you some more options for reflection. But here we are all together. We're all here in one room. So let's hear from each other about what we learned when we looked in these boxes. If you look around the room, we have these banners with all of these words that may reflect something that you felt in your heart or your mind when you looked at what you had written down over the year or when you reflected on the work that you had done. Maybe you felt some of that joy that Sheila was talking about. Maybe you felt love for another human being or learned something that you had never known before that changed the way you saw the world. Maybe you found reason for hope or connection with another human being, and maybe humility in the face of everything that there is to do. So I'm going to ask you now, this is a seventh inning stretch moment, to take a look at these words and to find the one that rises up for you out of the things that you read in your own box and to go stand under it. You will hopefully find some other folks who are standing under that same banner, and we're going to take just a minute to share with each other one reflection that we had when we saw what we had written down or when we thought back on our year. So please rise. Make your way around the sanctuary. I know you may be experiencing more than one feeling, so it's okay to swap banners if you'd like. You can have more than one feeling at a time. Okay, everyone. Hello. It is wonderful to hear all of these voices, to see all of the hugs. I'm going to welcome you back now.
So I think we're taking our seats.
Welcome back to where you don't. It doesn't have to be the same seat, but we would love for you to find a seat. So I just want to raise up some of the wonderful things that I heard when I was lurking amid the banners. I heard about, I spent a lot of time at Connection, which won't surprise anyone who knows what I do in the world, but I heard about people connecting to themselves, to who they really are, to finding new people to be in cahoots with justice-wise, to connecting to history and to tradition. I went over to love and saw the loving embrace of people who were new friends and old friends. And I heard a little bit of hope over there from some folks who had been in this process for a long time and were looking to the next generation to carry it forward. And so the good news is you all get to keep knowing each other. That was not the only 5 minutes that you get to spend together. So if you met someone who you think you would like to continue a conversation with, you're allowed to go out for coffee afterwards. And we'll see you here next year for Yom HaTzedek. So.
And so we join together with music that inspires change and acts of justice with our Yom HaTzedek social justice medley that you can find on page 20. Please sing along with us.
אני ואתה נשנה את העולם. אני ואתה אז יבואו כבר כולם. אמרו
העולם.
Beautiful. So before we take our final ritual act of the evening, we have all sorts of acknowledgments in the back of your Haggadah, but I just want to thank my colleagues here at Central Synagogue, our partners at Rodef Shalom, and our special guests, including Sheila Katz and Ruth Messenger, all of the artists who joined us, all the volunteers who joined us, all of my family that joined us, our musicians, our AV team, our marketing team, our security team. It's a team effort. For those of you who are here in person, we also have a special sweet gift for you before you leave. So please take a jar of honey, which is the product of a shared society effort between Israelis and Palestinians. So that is a gift for you. If you did not have a chance to fully reflect, we hope that you take the rest of this holiday to do so. You can use that QR code for a special time capsule that you can help to complete. We would love for you to do so. And if you didn't have a box to open this time around, or if you didn't fill it out as much as you feel that you should have, remember that this is a holiday of second chances. So you can try again this coming year.
As we look toward the coming year, may we feel inspired and strengthened by the examples of our justice leaders here with us tonight, our sheroes. May we feel heartened by the collective impact we have had this year, and may we continue on that eternal march toward a more just world. Please take a minute now to write out an aspiration or a commitment you want to make for the coming year and add it to your Zedek box. God of our ancestors, who listened as Abraham advocated for the innocent, who heard the cries of the Israelites crushed by oppression, who called us to stand with the widow, the orphan, the stranger, may our work help to fulfill the call for justice and righteousness. May we remember that we alone cannot complete the work. May we share strength and courage with everyone working for peace and dignity throughout the world. Together, let us share our gratitude for the divine compass that points the way to a more just world, and bless one another with the words on page 23. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lirdov tzedek.
Sometimes I lay under the moon and thank God I'm breathing. Then I say, don't take me soon, 'cause I'm here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, well, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, and I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that they don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will pay one day, one day, one day. Oh, one day, one day, one day. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will pray one day, one day, one day. Oh, oh, one day, one day, one day. Oh, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.